Before we get started, let's talk about the equipment, because when you smoke a beef brisket, a lot of people say that's an intimidating recipe we don't want to fight with. Well, Masterbuilt makes it so dadgum easy by allowing you to set the temperature, set the time, and take all of the guesswork out. Before we get started, we're going to make the cleanup a breeze by wrapping the water bowl with aluminum foil and the bottom tray, and make sure on that bottom tray you always poke a hole to let all the grease drippings get out. And this is where it gets fun. Again, all the guesswork is out with a remote control. Set temp. This particular recipe is 250 degrees. We'll go backwards once. Set time to 12 hours. No minutes. And you're done. Let's get started with our dry ingredients that's gonna make what I call a dadgum good rub. It's 7 different ingredients that we're gonna blend together, starting with 1 cup of paprika and 8 tablespoons of garlic powder. Next, 8 tablespoons of onion powder, 5 tablespoons of dried oregano, and 5 tablespoons of kosher salt, 2 tablespoons of black pepper, and our last ingredient is 2 tablespoons of cayenne pepper. Now what we're gonna do is blend all of these together to make a dadgum good dry rub. And in my cookbook, that's what we call this. And it's not only great for brisket, but you can use this dry rub for a lot of different barbecues or any other recipe that you're doing. Now, you're gonna also notice, in my cookbook, we talk about doing a 4 to 5 pound brisket. Today, we've taken it up a notch and we're doing a Texas-sized beef brisket that's 12 pounds. So every ingredient that we put into this, we've doubled. If you're gonna do a smaller brisket, just cut these ingredients in half. Now we're gonna transfer it over to our brisket. But notice I've got the fat side up. Now that's important because you always wanna have that beef brisket in the smoker with the fat side up. I'd recommend, if you want to bring the kids over, they love to help cook, let them get their hands dirty and you just supervise. Make sure you cover all sides with that dry rub. Now we're going to transfer it to the smoker rack. The Masterbuilt 40 is awesome. Why? Because this 12-pound brisket fits on 1 smoker rack. You've got 4 racks in this unit. So if you wanted to do 4 briskets at one time, do the math. That's 48 pounds of beef brisket at one time. Capacity, not a problem. We've got this one set at 250 degrees, and you've heard low and slow is the way to go. But when you're doing something this large, you want to turn that temperature down. But if you're doing a 4 to 5 pound brisket, you can leave it at 250 degrees. All right, get this brisket on. So we're gonna place the brisket onto the smoker, and always remember that you put the bend on the smoker rack to the back so that when it slides out, it's just like your oven. It will actually stop the smoker rack before it comes out, and then you give it a little tilt to slide it completely out. Now let's talk about the meat probe. Another great feature about the Masterbuilt smoker, it allows us to check the internal temperature and look at the juice that is pouring out of that brisket. That's because we have perfected the internal temperature. We're not undercooking it and we're not overcooking it. Now we're going to simply slide it into our new brisket in the bottom, into the meatiest part so that we can get it up to 180 degrees. And now notice on the bottom, this is our water bowl that we're getting a little low on. We're going to add a little bit more liquid to. Apple cider vinegar is what I'm using today. Very important. Only fill your water bowl halfway full so that you leave capacity for drippings during the process of cooking. Now we're going to take it off the smoker and we're going to let it rest while we talk about one last thing, and that's the flavor of the wood. We're using hickory and mesquite, either or, about every hour. With a Masterbuilt smoker, you don't have to open the front door when adding wood chips. Simply remove the side wood chip loader, push it in, give it a turn, and you're done. Before I slice into this brisket, let's talk about the smoke ring. Sometimes I have a perfect smoke ring, sometimes I don't. I worry about texture, moisture, and flavor. When I'm feeding my crowd, they're not worried about that smoke ring. There's too many factors that come into play. The moisture inside of the smoker, the moisture inside of the meat. So let's just relax and worry about serving up a really good dadgum brisket, like this one right here. So let's slice into this baby and show you why you're gonna wanna try this great recipe. This rub has turned into a nice crust and bark. This bark and that juice is where you get all your flavor from. I love it when a recipe turns out exactly like you plan it to. That's what's up. And again, we're gonna monitor the brisket that we just put on with the remote control so that it can turn out as perfect as that one. It's time to eat. I'm not kidding, that's perfect. I'm not just saying that.